Hello everyone! Welcome to my 2018 PAX South wrap-up. Sorry if my voice was a little different, I came back with PAX and it also delayed this video. But yeah, so in this video I want to show you all the indie games I saw over there at PAX, and maybe a funny story or two thrown in there. I'm saving the best for last. The last game I show you is my game of the show. The best and my most anticipated game from the show floor. But before we get started, I want to give you a little disclaimer. Some of these games you're going to see are Kickstarter projects or will be on Kickstarter soon. Typically, I have a rule where I will not give favorable coverage to a Kickstarter campaign unless they've started delivering something to the backers. This, of course, makes sure that I will not give good coverage to a campaign that just runs away with people's money. But for the purpose of this video, I'm relaxing that rule because I'm just reporting on what I saw on the show floor. That's not saying that you should relax though, be careful as always. Alright, now let's get right into it. The first game I saw there was Eagle Island. This is a game that's going to release in late 2018. It's from a company called Pixelnix, and it's actually being published by Screenwave Media, which I thought was really strange. That's actually a big YouTube network. They were on Kickstarter in April of 2017. They had a successful campaign. It's going to release on Steam. They don't have any plans for a Switch port yet, but I mean, come on, it's a 2D action platformer. It's probably going to end up on the Switch. And the game is not bad. I like the pixel art. It's very similar to Owlboy, but the two are not related. You use different birds throughout the game, and they have different attacks and different abilities that they give you. The game looks like a Metroidvania, but it's actually a roguelike. Each time you start the game, the layout is different. It's randomized. But it's not always in this like cave forest style setting. As you go further into the game, there are different types of areas to explore. It's also very challenging. I died quite a few times when I was trying this out. The game runs very smoothly. At least from what I played, it looked like it was almost ready for release. The only thing I think that's going to hold this game back is that while it does a lot of things well, it doesn't do anything new. But don't think I'm saying it's a bad game, I liked it. What I'm just trying to tell you is that if you're somebody who plays a lot of roguelikes, you might be looking for a little bit more, and you might not find it with this game. The next game I tried was Aftercharge, and you may have heard of it because it got a lot of media attention. It has a really interesting mechanic where you have one team that's invincible versus another team which is invisible. The game is multiplayer only, and you always need 6 players because it's 3-on-3, and they're looking to release in August of this year on Steam and Xbox. Now let me explain how this game works. Like I said, you have a team which is invincible versus a team which is invisible. The invisible team only has melee attacks and they have to take out these power nodes, but whenever they attack, they become visible. The invincible team has guns, and their job is to stop the invisible team. On paper, that sounds like a well-balanced game because each side has their own objectives and their own advantages, but when I started playing it, it was such a chore to be the invisible team. You're not given guns, you're always on the run, and you have to make yourself visible to attack these power nodes. The invincible team doesn't have to worry about dying, and they just shoot the invisible team once they have to attack. It's much more fun to be the invincible team. It's better to be the hunter than the hunted. However, after each match you do trade off, so it's not like you're stuck being invincible or invisible. Each side does take their turn. I don't play a lot of multiplayer, so maybe the game just wasn't for me, but I could tell that there was a really good feeling of accomplishment when you're either able to sneak around as the invisible team, or when you're able to block off the other team as the invincibles. Now here's something interesting. The devs did tell me that there's going to be microtransactions for skins, but nothing else. You're going to see that they're not the only devs that wanted to be clear that they're not going to have pay-to-win microtransactions. And that's great, that really shows me that our voices were heard during the whole Battlefront 2 fiasco. At least when it comes to developers who care, it seems that it's causing a ripple effect where they know that the consumer doesn't want that. The next game I saw was Slime Sand, and they actually released in August of last year. And they were at last year's show, but I didn't get to see them because the line was too long. So even though it's released, it was nice to at least talk to the dev team here. It's a speedrun game with a really great minimalist color palette. The devs told me that the record to beat it right now is 1 hour, and they can't even do that, so that's pretty cool. They're also already in the top 30 Switch games, so it's really nice to see them doing well. From what I played, I liked it. You're basically this little piece of slime that got eaten by another creature, and all the different stages of the game are you trying to get out of the creature, kind of like Lemminweeks. It's a really cool idea, I like that. They brought it back to the show this year because they're about to release some new DLC. This DLC has you in a different character that you have to escape from, and it's a Kraken. They also had another game at their booth. This one is unreleased and it's called Spirit Ball DX. It's going to release in the spring of 2018, so that's just in a few months. And it looks like a game of tennis, but it's actually more like air hockey. If air hockey had fireballs and magic and that sort of thing. You can select different characters to play as, and each character has different abilities. You can play single player against AI, there's even a campaign mode, or you can play with 2 to 4 players. Now this is cool, you can even play with 3 players 2 against 1 because the one guy on his own team can be a boss character. So yeah, not only does this thing have boss battles, but you could actually play as a boss character in multiplayer. It's local multiplayer only because it's on the Switch. I like these really inventive sports games, and like each arena has its own theme going for it, each sphere has its own spirit attached to it. It's a pretty cool game. I asked about the art style as well, and apparently it's inspired by Link's Awakening, which also explains the DX in Spirit Ball DX. Alright, next I saw a game called Quantum Covenant, and this is kind of an interesting booth right here, let me explain. The indie games at PAX South come in all shapes and sizes and levels of progress. Calling Quantum Covenant a game right now would be really misleading. I was told that their game is in early beta, but no, I would say that this thing would even struggle to be called alpha. It's a little space shooter game, it has no HUD right now, it has only a few enemies that you destroy. It doesn't even have a menu screen, they have to shut it down completely and then restart the app every time. It has no story, no objectives, no end goal aside from destroying the other little ships. It has no completion screen, it just keeps playing. This is simply not a game at this point. What they have here is a tech demo. They're showing off their progress so far, there's no shame in that. From what they tell me, this is their own gameplay engine from the ground up, and they've been working on this for 7 years. That's an insane amount of time for me, but again, that's not a problem. They are just a very honest exhibitor. All they want is feedback for what they have so far. And feedback is still helpful even at this very early stage. I think they're still trying to figure out what they want to make the game into. It is still in the very early stages with a very loose framework. But giving these guys the benefit of the doubt, I think if they could just take all the advice that they get at PAX and then turn that into a game based around what they have already, then I think they can create something worth playing. I mean, we all gotta start somewhere. And I wish them luck. Alright, moving on, let's look at some VR. There was VR all over the place at PAX South. I went to one developer that was showing off 2 games. The first one was Manifest 99. Now this isn't really much of a game, it's more of one of those like interactive narratives where you just kind of go through the level. There's no real way to lose, you just trigger the right things and then the story unfolds. You navigate through the areas by looking at crows, you just look at them in the eye and then you can transport to where they're standing. So there aren't even any controls in this game, you just have to use your VR headset and then look at where you need to be. The part of the game that I played all takes place in a train, and apparently it's the first chapter of 4. And this chapter, it seems that it follows like a bear that's going to war. Yeah, I know, it's kind of a weird story. I know that a lot of you won't be into this sort of thing, I'll be honest with you, I'm not either. But I liked how everything was presented and it seems like it might have a good story arc. So it's not something that I'm going to run out tomorrow and buy, but if I saw it on sale, I would probably think about getting it. I just want to see how it ends, and I guess that's the point of this game. And Manifest 99 is already on Steam, PSVR, Vive, and mobile. Sorry I didn't get any footage of my own, I was more focused on their other game, and that is Island Time. Island Time is a comedy survival game. The plot is that you're basically shipwrecked out of your own stupidity, and you have to perform a series of tasks in order to survive. The game is very cartoony, it has a purposefully high learning curve, and in fact I wasn't even able to complete the demo. It has a crafting mechanic where you have to combine different items to create tools, like you have to build a spear or make a fire, that sort of thing. And I really like how they implemented the difficulty system here because they did it by hiding joke crafts in there. Like for instance, when I needed to make a spear, I tried to combine bamboo and a block of wood, and instead of making anything useful, it just shot off like a ball rocket. I was also told that there were enemies in this game, but the only one I found was my own lack of a survival instinct. And I'm telling you, people were going nuts over this game. There was always a crowd around it every time I would pass by the booth. And you know, it's a very simple game, so I started to wonder why is it that it's clicking with people so much? And then I figured it out. You know what? It plays like a game show. You have the player in the VR headset who's the contestant, but arguably even better than being the contestant is being the audience. You get to cheer for him or egg him on, whichever one you want to do. It really does become a circus for everyone involved. I want to coin that term, Game Show VR. And if you'd like to be a contestant, Island Time is going to release in February or March of this year, so very soon. And you know what, let me tell you this funny story about the guy who made it. So I'm talking to the dev team, I'm with the main guy who made this game. And so I'm asking him all types of questions about his game and the industry and where did he start out, that sort of thing. And he's been in the industry for a while, and then he asks me out of the blue, he's like, hey, do you know about Star Wars Connect? And I've never played it, but I'm like, yeah, I've heard about it, that Star Wars dancing game, right? And then he just silently looks at me and points at himself. He was one of the main guys who made Star Wars Connect. I think he was expecting me to get a little bit angry, but no, I was totally cool with it. I think that's actually really neat. So we were both laughing about it. It's just totally absurd that people get so opinionated and so disgusted by that game. And I remember telling him, I was like, God, what kind of a monkey's paw was that they threw at you? Hey, great news, your lifelong dream, you're gonna work on a Star Wars game. Except it's Star Wars Disco Edition. But yeah, I had a lot of fun at that booth. He was a really cool guy. Alright, let's move on to the big boys. Let's talk about Dauntless. Dauntless is an online multiplayer co-op game. I think it's trying to compete with Monster Hunter. At least the premise sounds very similar. You're just a multiplayer group of friends. You have to find your target, which is a big monster, and then you all have to take it down. This game looks very polished. I would call it a AAA indie game. Right now it's in closed beta. They're going to move into open beta later this year, maybe in the summer. And it will be free to play, which really surprised me. Again, this looks like a retail game, something you would find on store shelves. But if they're giving it away, then I guess that tells you how strong the free to play market is, right? They will have microtransactions for skins and flares that you could shoot out for your teammates. There's also an airship lobby that you're in before a hunt, and you can customize that as well, again with microtransactions. However, they were adamant they will not be pay to win, and they will not charge for the behemoths that you hunt, or for extra weapons in arenas. Like I said before, this is really cool because it's showing that our voices are being heard. No company wants to be like EA right now. They're avoiding it like the plague. That is really good news for us. And it seems like this game is shaping up pretty well. So far they have 18 missions for you to play. The islands that you hunt on, they're not super huge, but they're big enough to explore. But I want to be super honest with you guys, so I'm going to tell you that the game did crash on me. I was part of a 4-player raid right there on the show floor. We were in the middle of a battle, and I was holding down a button to charge an attack or something, and then it just kicked me out of the game. It took me to the login screen, and once you're out, you can't get back in. Now, it doesn't seem like that was happening to everybody. Again, this was a very well polished game. If it was a buggy mess, I would tell you, and in fact there is a game that we're going to look at that was. So I think it was just a fluke, and I like the game. This isn't the type of game that I would usually play, but I'll be honest with you, I'm going to look out for this one. It's going to be free to play, so why not? I think I'll play it once it comes out. So far, they're only planning to release on Windows. Alright, moving on to the next heavy hitter, we have Outpost Zero. You may not have heard this game yet because it was actually announced at PAX South. And they were showing the game off away from the public and they invited me to come see it. That's something I don't think I told you. I actually went to PAX South this year as media. I was able to get a media badge because my channel is big enough now. And I'm telling you, that media badge was like the golden fucking ticket. I got so much preferential treatment with it. It was awesome. And of course, part of that was being able to check out Outpost Zero. It was really interesting. Right in the middle of TinyBuild's booth, there was like this little room right in the center of it. It was a little hexagon that was like barely 6 feet wide. And in there, the dev team showed off their game. Outpost Zero will be a survival first-person shooter. It incorporates a lot of base building and AI. You play as a robot, so you don't need food, but you do need energy. You need to create your base, you need to create a power plant, you need to make an energy grid. You could build robots to actually help you build your base. And because you're a robot, you could actually use your robot workers as extra lives. That's really cool, you don't usually see that in a game. Of course, there are tons of environmental threats. There are meteor showers, there's lightning strikes. There's just regular wear and tear deterioration that you need to keep an eye on. And then of course you have wildlife, you have space pirates, there's a lot on your plate. The survival aspects are very heavy in this game and I don't know how that's going to play out for them. I'm used to first-person shooters, but not that much survival. Even when I was talking to the devs, I couldn't help but compare the game to No Man's Sky. And personally, as long as they do it right, I don't see that as a bad thing. They have all kinds of gameplay modes that they want to implement. There's your regular survival mode, but they're also going to have other servers for like a tower defense type game. Also a PvP sandbox server, and those ones you could go steal somebody's base. There's a lot of stuff they're trying to do here, but if they could pull it off, they might have something really cool. The game is in closed alpha right now. It's going to go into closed beta late spring, early summer of this year. And if all goes according to plan, they're going to launch it in early access later this summer. Alright, so that was cool, huh? I got my own private media appointment with TinyBuild to see their unreleased game. Well, getting a media pass wasn't perfect. I made other private appointments which didn't really turn out well. The worst of which was Chronoblade. You know, before I made this video, I was considering skipping Chronoblade altogether. I was like, why do I want to open up this fucking can of worms? But then I decided, you know what, no, I owe it to you guys to tell you the true story of PAX South, and I don't think it's complete without telling you about Chronoblade. So here's what happened. The people behind the game Chronoblade reached out to me because there's a media list that circulates showing everybody who has a media pass, and that way the game devs can pick out creators that they're interested in and ask them if they want to make an appointment. Chronoblade reached out to me because they have like an action style beat 'em up sort of like Golden Axe, and I'm totally into that, so I'm like, alright, sure, let's check out your game. So I made the appointment and there's like 100 red flags that go off. First off, I realized that they're not on the exhibitor list, so they don't have a booth on the show floor. Now that's not too bad because there's similar stuff that goes on, like for instance 505 Games was there. They too did not have a booth on the expo floor, but they were there in their own private room in the expo hall. They just had some games which were unannounced that they didn't want to show to everybody. The difference with Chronoblade, though, is that they weren't even in the Expo Center. Instead, they were in the lobby of the hotel across from the Expo Center. That should have been the biggest red flag to me, but then I thought, you know what, maybe like 505 Games, maybe they just want their privacy, that's cool. Now, even leading up to the expo, there were more red flags. They wanted my phone number, they wanted my full name, all this stuff that the other exhibitors never asked for. None of the other exhibitors asked because they didn't care, they just cared that I have a channel and I'm interested in their game. It was already freaking me out, so by the time they started asking that, I should have just called it off right there. I should have just told them, hey guys, something else came up, I can't make this appointment, please cancel for me. But instead, I just stayed on course in some misguided logic that I had some professional duty to keep my appointments. So get this, the day comes, it's right after my appointment with Outpost Zero, so I'm on a really big high. I just had a private appointment with Tiny Build, things are looking good. So I'm hustling out of the expo hall, I go to the hotel lobby, and no one's there. And in my mind, I'm expecting like a big production. I'm expecting, an actual booth, right there in the hotel lobby. I'm looking around and I don't see anyone who's showing off a game. So I go to the front desk, I ask for my contact over there like I'm waiting for the fucking royal family or something, and she has no fucking clue who this person is. And immediately in my head, I'm thinking, fuck, I've been set up. And it's one of those situations where, there's like a totally unrelated group of expo goers, like 4 of them right there in the lobby that are sitting and laughing. And I'm glancing at them like, I know you're behind this. Like, you fuckers, you're the ones who did this. I know it. But then I remember, wait a second, I remember there's a confirmation email with some information in there. So I look up my confirmation email and I've got like 30 of them from other exhibitors. But I found the right one and sure enough, he included a photograph in there. The photo is the guy I'm supposed to meet. I need to find his ass. So great, now they've got me on a fucking scavenger hunt. That should have been a red flag. So now I'm going around looking for this guy, and there's like a group of professionals there that I'm thinking about approaching because it kind of looks like him. They totally fit the mold. Like the main guy, he has a ponytail. He's got some good looking PR people around him. I was almost about to approach them because I thought they were the right people. Thank God I didn't. I would have fucking died of embarrassment right there if they had shot me down. Instead, I looked around one more time and I found my contact sitting in a corner. Alright, so I finally found the dude, but we're not out of the woods yet. No, we're just barely beginning here. Wait till you hear about this game. Chronoblade has been around for like 5 years already. It was originally a Facebook game in Korea and China. Now they're trying to bring it over here to the West on mobile devices, basically like double dipping the market with an old game. It's a beat 'em up and it's pretty polished, but I mean, for being 5 years old, it better be. And guess what? It's gonna have microtransactions. The bad kind of microtransactions. They're gonna have DLC for armor and weapons, and for each new area. By that point, I was so fucking done with this game, it was not even funny. I just kept on looking for an out, and then the guy was showing me co-op and all this other bullshit. And in the expo hall, I really try to get into the game, I have fun with the developer, I ask funny questions just to put him at ease. But with this Chronoblade guy, we're in a hotel lobby with people around us, professionals who are trying to get shit done. So we gotta be quiet and keep it low-key while we're playing a mobile phone game. It was the most awkward fucking experience of the whole show. And I know I'm not the only one, there was another content creator at the Dauntless booth and he told me that he had an upcoming appointment with them too. So look, Chronoblade, don't fucking do that, okay? If you want media, then get a proper booth. Your little hotel rendezvous was awkward as fuck, it was confusing, it was embarrassing, and worst of all, it was a total waste of time. This is an old game that you're lazily re-releasing onto the market. It's time that I could have spent on the show floor looking at other indie games. So, as you can tell, I was pissed. But thankfully, right after that, I went to another booth and I had one of the best experiences at the expo. I went to a little booth to check out a game called Salad Hunt. This is another exhibitor that reached out to me because get this, they are fans of my channel. And let me tell you, after that awful experience with Chronoblade, it was so nice to meet some of my fans face to face. The guy who reached out to me, his name is Telly, and when I showed up and told him it was me, I cannot explain to you how happy this guy got. I'm not kidding you, he was like, dude, it's you with the voice and the hands and everything. He didn't know what I had just been through with Chronoblade, he still doesn't know. But it doesn't matter, in that moment, he made my day. Alright, now let me talk about his game already. His game is a very simple shooter for tablets. It's going to release in March of this year for Windows, Android, and iOS. It is their first game, and it's simple enough to where it's not something that you or I would play. Instead, they say it's marketed towards children and their stressed out parents. Like I said, it's a very simple game, it'll have points and a leaderboard, it'll be free to play but ad supported. Again, it's not for me, but it has some great guys behind it. They really did bring my spirit up when I needed it, and that's true for the rest of my viewers as well. You guys turn the worst days into my best days. I really can't thank you enough for that. And that's gonna do it for this video. There are so many games I want to cover that I've decided to split it up into 2 parts. So I've got more games I'm going to show you guys in part 2. And I've decided that the game of the show is going to get its own separate video. I think it's earned it deserves a spotlight. So until then, thanks for watching guys, I will see you next time.